Everyone, I'm Victor Manibo. I'm a senior attorney here at Wang Law Office. You are watching the AM show, Wang Law Office's question and answer show.
Hi, my name is Ariel. I'm the host, also a senior paralegal at Wagner Office. Our show is going to start every Friday at 11 a.m. EST, AM PST.
Here at the AM show, Ariel and I try to answer the most pressing immigration questions sent to us by our viewers through our platforms like Line or YouTube or email. We collect all these questions and put together a show about a certain topic every week. And this week, we are going to be talking about military service and immigration benefits. What kind of benefits can somebody get if they serve in the US military or if they're related to someone who is serving in the US military?
Yes. So before we start the topic, Victor, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Sure. For those who haven't met me yet, again, my name is Victor Manibo. I am a senior attorney here at Wang Law Office, and I've been with this firm for over 10 years. I've been a lawyer for over 12 years. I am licensed to practice in New York and in New Jersey, but since we are an immigration law firm and immigration law is federal in nature, our firm can serve clients all over the United States. I graduated from Cardozo School of Law here in New York, and I specialize in immigration defense, meaning I help non-citizens in immigration court and defend them from being removed from the country. I also do immigration applications, and Ariel helps me out with all of these things, meaning we try to apply for benefits, immigration benefits for non-citizens, which we seek from our various immigration agencies. Aside from being a lawyer, I'm also a science fiction writer, and my first book was called The Sleepless. It came out last year.
Yes. So let's back to today's topic. Victor, I want to know, can I get green card if I join the US military?
So you and I have gotten this question a lot. People are asking, I want to join the US military so that I can get a green card. Unfortunately, you cannot do that. USCIS will not give you a green card based on enlisting in the military, or if you say, I want to enlist in the military. That's just not a pathway to a green card. In fact, you need a green card to enlist in the military. You can't enlist or join the military without being an LPR first. If you're not an LPR, you can't join the military, unfortunately. So it's the reverse of what people might be thinking. You need the LPR to get into the military, not vice versa.
Yes. So what counts as a service member in the military?
Right. So because we were going to be talking about military service, it's important to know what the military is, right? The military is the branch of our government, of our country, that defends our nation from threats outside of the country and within the country. And the U.S. military has several branches. It includes the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and the National Guard. And obviously, those are like big sections of the U.S. military, or collectively known as the U.S. Armed Forces. The Army is mostly in land. The Navy is mostly by sea. They're on ships. Air Force is they're the ones who fly the planes, right? But there are very many subdivisions within the military, but those are the major ones. If you are enlisted in one of those branches of the military, then you might be able to get certain immigration benefits, aside from the benefits that a U.S. Military service member can get.
So how to get citizenship through the military service?
So yes, this is another common question that we get. Some people ask, can I get a U.S. citizen? Can I become a U.S. citizen if I join the military? And the answer to this is yes, right? So you can't get a green card, but you could become a U.S. citizen.
But you need to have the green card first.
But you need to have a green card first, because like we always say, you can't just become a U.S. citizen without going through permanent residency first, right? So even if you're born in a different country, you can serve in the U.S. military and defend the United States if you're a permanent resident of the United States. A lot of people our LPR have been here a long time already. Even though they were born in a different country, they feel like the US is their home and they want to defend it maybe by joining the military. You can do that. And one of the benefits of being in the military, like I said, aside from other benefits of, you get, obviously get paid, you get like college tuition if you join the military, you can also get expedited naturalization. And this is probably something that a lot of our viewers are familiar with. You can apply for citizenship at a shorter period of time if you join the military. Now, what do I mean by shorter period of time? We're going to review what we talked about in naturalization YouTubes maybe a few weeks ago or a few months ago, right? So if you are an LPR and you got your LPR status through a spouse, how long do you have to wait before you can apply for naturalization?
3 years.
3 years, exactly. And if you got your LPR status through an employer or maybe through another relative who's not a spouse, how long do you have to wait?
5 years.
5 years, right. If you are a U.S. military service member, you don't have to wait 3 years. You don't have to wait 5 years. You can apply for naturalization after being an LPR for only 1 year.
So how long do you need to serve in the U.S. military before actually apply for the citizenship?
So this is another common question. Like, if I join the military, can I apply for naturalization right away? And obviously the answer is no, because if that was the case, then people would just sign up and apply for naturalization and then maybe try and quit, right? So you have to serve in the military for a certain number of time before you can benefit from that expedited naturalization period, before you can benefit from that 1 year period, right? And your period of service, how long you have to serve in the military, will depend on whether the country, the United States, is at peacetime or wartime.
So what do you mean by peacetime?
Peacetime is when the U.S. is officially not at war with another country or another entity, right? You know, the U.S. military is involved in a lot of things all over the world. They send soldiers everywhere, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are at war with a country. Sometimes they're helping out in, maybe in Syria, there's a problem there, or maybe in the Middle East, there's a problem there. They send soldiers, but that doesn't mean that we are at war. We're not fighting with anyone there, right? The U.S. right now is at peacetime, and generally the U.S. is at peacetime. And when the U.S. is at peacetime, you have to serve for at least 1 year in the U.S. military before you can apply for naturalization and benefit from that expedited period of 1 year. So we're talking about two different 1 year periods here, okay? 1 year of being an LPR so that you can apply for naturalization, but that's only after you serve 1 year in the U.S. military.
So how about the wartime?
So wartime is when the U.S. is officially at war with another nation. This is something that happened around 2001 when the U.S. went to war with Afghanistan. This was quite a while ago. Some people might not remember.
I don't remember. I only remember 9/11.
Right. So that's it. That's what happened after 9/11. The U.S. declared war on Afghanistan, right? The U.S. was at wartime during that time. The U.S. was also at wartime shortly after during the Iraq War in 2003. So during wartime, if you're serving, you only need to serve at least 1 day in the
Just
US
1 day?
military. Yeah, at least 1 day, and then you can apply for N400 and benefit from the expedited naturalization period of 1 year. Because obviously, this benefit, the shorter period for naturalization, is meant to encourage people to sign up for the military, right? People sign up for the military for a lot of reasons. Like I said, maybe they want to defend the United States. Maybe they really feel strongly about defending the country. Also, some people want to know what other benefits they can get. And during wartime, that's when the country needs the most soldiers. So even if you only serve for 1 day, yeah, we'll give you this benefit just to encourage people to enlist in the military.
So who can apply for citizenship through the service in the military?
Okay, so let's say you are already enlisted in the United States military. let's say you have already served the 1 day in wartime or 1 year in peacetime, right? What are the requirements to apply for naturalization? You have to be at least 18 years old. You have to have, like I said, serve the 1 year or the 1 day, depending on peacetime or wartime. And you have to be an LPR at the time of your naturalization interview, not just at the time you file your naturalization application, but at the time of the interview, which could be a lot later. You know, a lot of things can happen. Maybe you file your naturalization application and then you get in trouble, your LPR status is revoked, or you are sent to immigration court before your interview. Then you can't naturalize it.
So besides this, what other requirements do I need to meet in order to get the citizenship?
As someone who is in the military, you also have to show one of two things. One, if you are still in the military, you have to file a form that certifies that you are still in the military. It's signed by one of your officers in whatever military branch that you're in. And this officer should certify that, yes, you are a service member and say how long you've served, etc. If you are no longer in the military, then you have to show your certificate of release or certificate of discharge, meaning you have this document from the military branch saying that, oh, you're no longer part of the military, but you were part of the military before. You know, some people are allowed to leave the military or are let go from the military. You have to show that you have been honorably discharged, meaning, you know, you weren't a bad soldier. The U.S. military is just letting you go for any number of valid reasons. Maybe it's a medical reason, or maybe it's some other reason why you cannot or you're allowed not to serve anymore. As long as you're honorably discharged, show that you have to provide that certificate of release or certificate of discharge. And of course, because this is naturalization, you also have to qualify for the other requirements that are basic to naturalization applications, which we've talked about our other YouTube shows, right? Can you give me like an example?
You are a good person.
Yes,
very good.
Not a good person, just good moral character. That's the specific term, right? You have to show your good moral character. And what else is one big thing that people
You need to go to the interview, pass the test, right?
Yes, exactly. This is what a lot of people trip up on. But, you know, if you are an LPR for a sufficient amount of time, if you were in the military, then you probably will pass the U.S. history test. You will hopefully pass the U.S. civics and government test. And hopefully you also will pass the English written and spoken language test.
Yes, we just talked about the service member, right? So are the relative of a service member eligible for citizenship?
Yes, specifically U.S. service members who are already U.S. citizens. So, for example, we have somebody who was an LPR, applied for expedited naturalization, waited just a year or so, and now they're a U.S. citizen. Can their relatives benefit? And the answer is yes. Spouses and children of U.S. military service members who are U.S. citizens may apply for naturalization, and they could benefit from expedited naturalization. They might not even need to fulfill certain residency requirements if they're living abroad to be with their soldier spouse, for example, right? Maybe the spouse is sent off into another country and the LPR spouse is sent over there to be with them or lives there to be with them. They can still naturalize even though they're out of the United States for a while. And they can also get their naturalization applications processed overseas.
So is there other benefit that the relative of a service member can get if that relative does not have legal status?
Okay, for people who don't have legal status, there are also benefits for having a relative who's a service member in the U.S. military. For example, a spouse of a child of a military service member can gain parole in place. This is kind of a designation for people who may have overstayed or may have entered the country without inspection. Ordinarily, and we've talked about this in other YouTube shows, you will have trouble adjusting your status, you will likely have to get an unlawful presence waiver. You will likely have to leave the country before you get your green card. With parole in place, which is available to spouses and children of U.S. service members and other relatives also, such as parents, you can apply for adjustment of status even though you're a UE, even though you're an overstay, without having to do the unlawful presence waiver. That's what parole in place does. And that's a big help for a lot of people. Another benefit that is allowed to spouses, children, and parents of U.S. military service members is deferred action. Maybe some people have heard of this before.
Yeah, can you repeat the definition of the deferred action?
Yeah, because this is something that ICE provides to non-citizens. It's not a USCIS benefit. It's an ICE exercise of prosecutorial discretion. Basically, what ICE is saying is, we know you don't have status, or maybe we know you have an order, but we are deferring removal action on you. We are not going to try to remove you because you're the spouse, you're the parent of a soldier. And that's something that, the ICE values, that our government values. So we're not going to kick you out of the country while your son or your spouse is fighting overseas, right? So you get to stay in the country. And also you get an EAD card. You can apply for an employment authorization document, and you can work in the country if you have deferred action. So that, again, is another benefit available to relatives of service members.
So aside the parole in place and deferred action, is there other benefit that the relative of service member can get if they still don't have status?
Yeah, so we talked about parole in place, deferred action, naturalization with special treatment, basically, if you're related to a U.S. service member. Those are direct benefits, right? But there are also kind of indirect benefits by being related to someone in the military. For example, we talk about prosecutorial discretion a lot here on the show. We have YouTubes about this. And prosecutorial discretion basically requires ICE attorneys and ICE officers to treat people more leniently if they're not a high priority case, right? And they are given factors to review on when to exercise prosecutorial discretion. Being related to a U.S. military service member is one of the favorable discretion factors. So basically, if an ICE attorney or ICE officer sees that you're related to a service member, that is one of the factors that might convince them to exercise prosecutorial discretion in your favor. Obviously, that's only one thing, right? You have to have other factors to convince the ICE officer or attorney to exercise PD or prosecutorial discretion. But obviously, that is a big help. That if you see that, that's definitely a standout. There's not a lot of people who serve in the military or want to serve in the military or are related to someone who serves in the military. So that's one kind of indirect way. And if you get PD, you might be able to get your case dismissed. You might be able to, get your immigration court case admin closed, or any other immigration benefit even. Another kind of indirect benefit is being a relative of a U.S. service member can help expedite any pending applications, right? When you have a pending, let's say, green card application or petition, you can ask for expedited processing because of an emergency reason or because of U.S. government interest. And obviously, having a relative overseas who is a soldier who might be, in harm's way because of what they do for a living, that might qualify for a humanitarian reason or an emergency reason, or a reason for government interest, U.S. government interest, to expedite their case. Like maybe you and your spouse are petitioning for someone, or he's petitioning for someone related to both of you, right? You can tell USCIS, hey, my husband is overseas fighting a war. He wants to bring over his mother, petitioning for his mother. Let's please expedite this because we don't know how long the war is going to last, or like, we don't know what's going to happen. Things like that. Again, this is not directly, it doesn't mean that it's going to get approved, right? But it's something that you can tell to USCIS, and it's one of the factors that they can consider in expediting at least any pending applications. To mention the MAVNI program, which some of our viewers might have heard about. It's MAVNI, and that stands for Military Accession Vital to National Interest. And it's a military program where non-citizens who are not LPRs yet could become a US citizen without going through the normal green card process, just by serving in the military. This was available to asylees, people with temporary protected status, people with certain non-immigrant visas like F or J, T, U, and many others, and also for people who have deferred action or DACA. They didn't need to get LPR status or green card before applying to citizenship. They can skip that process and go from their previous status straight to U.S. citizenship by getting a certification from the military to allow you to apply to become a U.S. citizen. Basically, the requirement was if you have those statuses for at least 2 years and you're a healthcare professional, or if you have language skills that are needed in the military, then you can apply. It started out in 2008, but since then, the Department of Defense have scaled back this program. They're minimizing its use. In 2016, they suspended MAVNI for new recruits, and it's closed indefinitely. They're not doing away with it completely. It's still part of the regulations, but the Department of Defense, which leads all our military branches, have refused to accept certifications from new recruits and are sometimes refusing to certify for recruits that have already been there or are even discharging soldiers under the MAVNI program. Because of this, because of what the Department of Defense was trying to do, there was a class action suit. And last year, the government came into an agreement saying, okay, don't sue us anymore, but we will certify the MAVNI recruits who have applied in the past that they were refusing to certify. That doesn't mean that MAVNI is open to everyone else. Again, it's still indefinitely suspended and closed to new recruits. But this could be a sign that in the future, hopefully, MAVNI will come back and people who want to serve in the military, who don't have LPR status yet, might have this pathway into the future. Unfortunately, right now, that's not the case, but if you keep following us, we might have good updates on that in the future.
Yes. In fact, military service offers so many advantages to people who wants to become a U.S. citizen, but it does not guarantee any outcome.
Right.
The application is complicated, and then you should better to call and consult with us about your option.
And finally, before we wrap this up, serving in the military is a very complicated decision. Obviously, it takes a lot of time, effort, energy, and you will be risking your life and liberty and ability to move freely and be with your family and friends. And it's even more complicated if you are not a citizen of this country yet. You're just an LPR. You're going to decide, oh, do I really want to defend this country? I'm not even a citizen. I wasn't even born here, right? It's a very personal decision. It's very complicated. And people serve in the military because they believe in this country. They want to defend this country, not just because of immigration benefits. But of course, since we're an immigration law firm and these are the questions that we get, we want to talk about them. But there are other reasons. There are other benefits. Also, there are disadvantages to signing up for the military or having a relative sign up for the military. That's something that you have to discuss. Also discuss among yourselves as a family, but also discuss with your lawyer if you have any options, if you have any advantages or benefits that you can get from enlisting.
Yes, and if you have more questions, feel free to leave your question to us with any of our platform.
And again, aside from just leaving us questions, we encourage you every time to consult with us. Call us if you want direct legal advice about your case, or if you want legal representation. Watching this YouTube video is just me talking about my legal experience and giving out my legal opinion. It's not advice, and of course it's not representation. But if you want us to represent you, and if you want us to really talk about your case specifically, call us through any of our platforms and we'd be glad to talk to you.
Yes, and also please continue follow us on YouTube. We will be back again next week with another show, Friday at 11 AM EST and 8 AM PST. See you then.
Till then, bye.